1. I waited tables back in the early 90s, worked at a rising popular chain steakhouse in southern Florida. I was putting myself through college, replacing my life after Hurricane Andrew, and worked about 4 or 5 nights a week. Prior to working at this place, I worked at another popular restaurant in the area and had a loyal customer base. I paid for college with big birthday gifts, Christmas gift, tax returns, etc. from my regulars. I got to know their names and their families. So, I had this lovely family that was from Haiti come into this steakhouse. After waiting on them a few times, they started requesting my section. The father was working on getting his MD license in the US, as he was a doctor when he lived in Haiti. They had twin girls and a son. The girls loved me. They brought me pictures they drew, hugged me when they came, and hugged me goodbye. Just the nicest people you'd ever want to see on an early Friday night. It really set the tone for the evening. One Friday I wasn't there. Someone scooped them up. Later the next day, they complained they only gave 10% since it wasn't me. I said, oh, that's what they tip me all the time. So I explained that someone else would make up for it, and to them, and they thought they were tipping the norm. She huffed and says it wasn't worth it. Really? I explained my perspective. What a lot of folks in the biz didn't understand about this was tipping was something that was learned via parents, family, and friends. People I worked with would complain about different races not tipping. They were also not necessarily Anglo-Saxon, but younger. I come from a mixed-race family and learned as a child in the 70s about racism on a road trip with my mom, my uncle, and grandfather while visiting my family in a southern state. We weren't allowed in because my uncle was darker-skinned, and they apparently still had segregation in smaller businesses in some parts of the country. So 6 months later, this family call and say they want me for a party of 20. The dad got his medical license and was celebrating by taking out his family and friends who helped him on his journey. He also must have gotten a tip card with his new Amex. He pulled me aside very upset and explained he didn't know the standards and thanked me for being his favorite waitress. He then handed me an envelope. I told him it wasn't necessary. He said use it for school. Inside was $1,250. Then he tipped me on his Amex for a $500 tab, $250. After that, every time he came in, he would tip me 20 to 25%. I had to deal with drunk asshole men who tipped huge, and it made me feel dirty. That family was good for my soul and spirit back in my early 20s, with 10%. You cannot put value on people who make you smile from your heart. 2. I've been in restaurants and fine dining for over 10 years, before my feet retired me. But by the end, I was in some very nice places in and around DC. One such restaurant was attached to an upper upscale, actual classification, hotel and spa. As part of my duties as a food runner, I would also deliver room service orders. This was not a big part of my job, as room service was only regular menu items and a mandatory $5 room service charge, and automatic 20% gratuity to discourage small orders. So naturally, there were no casual items. There were no tuna sandwiches, only seared U10 Deaver scallops on a squid ink polenta, and for the huge percentage of guests getting off a plane from a transatlantic flight, French cooking is a little hard on the stomach. Enough preamble. It was a normal Saturday night after the dinner rush. There were only a few tables left, but food is mostly done and the kitchen crew is breaking down for the night. A man in a suit sticks his head into the kitchen. Is it too late for an order of fries? For you, room service. Just fries? It's gonna be like $20 for just fries. Just fries. I ask the kitchen, and they give the green light. 5 minutes later, I'm in the elevator with a slightly larger plate of fries from a benevolent kitchen. I get to the room and knock. A moment later, a woman in a loose robe swings the door open, and I know immediately that she's working. This was not a common occurrence at the hotel, and it was much more difficult to tell with the tax brackets of our average guests. But it happened enough that we got a pretty good eye for it. But this young lady is done for the night. The mask is off. This is a performer at the end of a shift. She's tired, and she just wants some fries. It looks like it's been a long night, further evidenced by the lack of anyone else visible from the door. I hand her the check to sign everything to the room. She scribbles something and hands it back to me open. I see a further $100 tip on top of the automatic 20% of $6.99. I look up at her, and before I have a chance to think of a question, she answers it, because fuck 'em. So, I don't know who you are, even though I'm sure I asked the front desk what your name was and promptly forgot. And I don't know what odious deeds you have done or what sins you have committed. But I'm thankful that you were bad enough to deserve a $100 penalty in the form of one service worker helping out another. Three. I was threatened with gun violence at work by a 58-year-old woman. I told management, and she is still gainfully employed, to the extent that my entire schedule was changed to benefit her. The only day I ask off is Sunday, and availability I sat upon employment. It was accepted, and there is no issue for the 3 weeks I've been employed. All of a sudden, the 58-year-old woman who has been bullying me decides she wants to take off on Sundays, despite not having cover. So they decided to put me on schedule for Sundays without even asking me. I filed a police report on the clock because management decided to do nothing about her threatening me. They started laughing and gaslighting me about the incident. I only filed a police report for a paper trail in case of a lawsuit. I asked my manager if we have an HR department. I am aware that HR is there to protect the business, not employee, but they are also legally required to have some sort of mediation for incidents between employees, for their record as well. She gave me an attitude about it and claims I'm complaining too much. I think I reserve the right to complain if I feel like my life is in danger and my availability is not being respected. I didn't even complain. In fact, I chose not to speak for the majority of my shift. Turns out HR is the owner, and they apparently had a meeting about the conflict with me and my coworker, without me. A conflict that she started. I am over 30 years younger than her. That explains itself. My manager sent me home early because she claimed I was being a problem, then had the nerve to ask if I was coming in tomorrow. She had another employee ask me, didn't even have the decency to ask me herself. I replied not until I speak to HR. I also added that I did not quit, so they can't say that I did. I have screenshots. There are more nuances to this, but I'm emotionally tired. I'm asking for advice on how to navigate this. I'll be talking to my therapist this week as well. I'm taking the gun threat seriously because this 58-year-old woman proudly tells everyone that will listen that she used to do and deal crack. These types of substances rot the brain, especially after long-term usage. This old woman lives off a street code that has nothing to lose. She currently lives in a trailer and plans to leave the restaurant in May with her roommate. Anyone who would bring up violence over a table where waitresses is not in their right mind. With all the mass shootings going on, especially after heated arguments, RIP Takeoff, I feel as though I'm right to take it seriously. I feel powerless because she has a manager on her side. Apparently they have a history together. And that manager caused all of this, and I have no idea why. Currently, there is no word as whether I'm employed or not, as I have not been notified through our scheduling app. The only communication I have had was that they had my last check, which was supposed to be directly deposited. I'm not driving 30 minutes to pick up a check, not with these gas prices. Passive aggressiveness all around, just because I stood up for myself. I should have known this place was insane when they hired me without an interview over the phone. The same manager mentioned that another employee was suing them currently. It's making a lot of sense why. It's the fact that HR, the owner, is refusing to speak to me. Like, that has to be illegal. even in an at-will state? Since when can HR deny you? Like, yeah, firing makes sense, but to not even speak with you? 4. Context. We're a fairly small restaurant, with only a 10-top sushi bar and 3 2-seater tables, and 1 4-seater with a 2-top table outside. This night, we happened to have 2 spots at the bar with the reserved sign with menus for the other 5 on place. It was a group of 7, and 1 out of 2 tables empty for a 6-top reservation reserved. Other table we were waiting on leaving. Story. We had a super busy night, with 3 groups of 6 to 8 people seated and a group of 6 waiting for their reservation. This couple walks in the middle of the rush, and between us trying to fit everyone inside and organize tables and chairs, and I just had the people at the counter 7 seated and got the drinks. I saw we couldn't take them in due to the fact that all the other table reservations were coming up in less than 10 minutes, and we needed to have those cleared. Verbatim what my boss told me to say. I'm super sorry for the inconvenience, but we currently don't have any spots that aren't reserved. I do have a table outside if you guys don't mind waiting, or we could put you in our wait list. But the wait time will be around 40 to 45 minutes. They literally looked disgusted by the fact and left. 20 minutes later, we got this 1-star review. The review, verbatim. It's February 24th, and it's 6:15 p.m. We just left there. They would not seat us. There were 2 empty tables and 2 seats at the bar. They said everything was reserved. Never been to a sushi place that took reservations, and never been turned around at a sushi place before. What a waste of time. Why would anybody go back knowing that there's a high chance you won't be seated? Just go somewhere else. Quite literally, every sushi place within a 15-mile radius takes reservations. Not to mention 3 of the sushi places near us are owned by a few of my boss's cousins. What I did not say, but I wish I could insert as a reply, is, "Hi, we actually do take reservations. You came on a Friday night, and we happen to be a popular place. We try and get everyone seated, but we tend to get on a wait. You're always welcome to call ahead and get on the wait list. You can email me, and I'll be more than happy to make sure you're taken care of. I apologize we were slammed when you came in. I'd love the opportunity to take care of you." The sad thing is, my bosses really try for our customers. Then you have motherfuckers like these. 5. Info. This does not take place in the US, Europe, or Australia. This is set in Asia. I won't clarify where since it's not important, just wanted to give you guys context. For starters, I'm 23 years old, a university student working part-time at my aunt's restaurant to make a little extra moolah before the academic year starts. My job is pretty simple. It's an all-rounder job where I need to take people's orders, send tickets to the kitchen, calculate each table's bills, handle payments and clear tables. Essentially working part-time as a waitress. I'm only here until the end of this week because I secured another gig elsewhere before the academic year starts, so I figured why not finish this week for a little extra cash before then. I get along with most of the staff, all of whom are a decade or so older than me, and said individuals work at the restaurant full-time. There's another part-timer, 19, who's working there, and comes to work whenever he's able since he's studying too. He wasn't around for a couple of weeks, so I've been left to sort out most waitressing matters. My shifts during lunch hour get particularly busy, which is why my system keeping the workflow super smooth is a crucial point to this post. The moment after bills have been settled, tables need to be cleared immediately, because new customers come pouring in, and some insist on being seated even before the tables have been cleared or wiped down. I came up with a system in the 3 weeks that I've been working here that works for both myself and my colleagues. Upon receiving tickets for orders that have been received, I always key in their order according to the table they're set, so it's less time-consuming in the event other customers want to settle their respective bills. Customers are expected to come to the payment counter when they're ready to pay, so this system is a lot easier and more efficient than letting tickets pile up, and only calculating the bill right when the customers are about to pay, which results in a longer line. I always make a point to ask customers if their food has all arrived, if they're satisfied with the quantity of their order, and if they ordered anything else that I hadn't seen on their tickets. Once they verify their orders are correct, that's all. I go about my day and mind my business. That was until the other part-timer approached me earlier today. His point was an eyebrow raiser for sure. I'm not the type of person to pick fights or argue, so since he was so insistent that my way of doing things was making it difficult for him to keep track of additional orders at each table, I decided to just let him have at it, since he was so happy to tell me how to do my job. I simply smiled and nodded at him, making a beeline for the cleaning supplies and thinking to myself, "You want me to stop punching in people's orders? Sure thing." For a solid hour or two, I only collected the tickets, bringing them to the cash register and letting them pile up, just as he requested. When I noticed customers stand up from their seats and making their way to the payment counter, I would speedwalk to the cleaning supplies and start collecting plates, to show that my hands were occupied and that I wouldn't be able to sort out people's bills. I left it all to my dear coworker who tried telling me what to do and how to do it. It was the right call to make because the line that followed, due to his insistence on changing the system, snaked about halfway through the restaurant, full of customers waiting to pay their bill. Once lunch hour had died down, I smiled to myself and went back to keying in people's tickets the way I always had. My part-time co-worker sheepishly approached me with new additions to existing orders since then. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 204. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I believe I do have a little shout out to give. Yes, I do. It goes to the author of the second story. That's the story about the fries and the tip. And that is Reddit user F=M freaking A. A big thanks for allowing us to use your story. It did make me want fries, however, so I guess I know what I'm having for dinner tonight. Not very healthy, but, well, it's been a busy couple of days. I think I've deserved a treat, so that's what dinner will be tonight. Alright, I don't think there's any other shout-outs to do today. If you would like a shout-out, a birthday shout-out, that sort of thing, please do send an email along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. That's kingofthecities@gmail.com. I tried not to say it twice, but it's almost like a tick, so there we are. You can find that email in the description of this and pretty much any other video. Do try to give me a bit of notice. I mean, if you send it in day of or day before, I will do it, but it won't be on that day, because I generally work about a week ahead now. So, at least a week before is ideal, is preferable. And don't make a request in the comments section of a video, because I'll probably see it, then promptly forget about it by the time I actually need to do it. That's why I ask folks to send emails. I have a little folder in my email section I check before I do every video, so they don't get forgotten. Okay, now before we go, that moves us right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, and this one comes thanks to Reluge. If you had a choice in where you spent for eternity after you passed away, heaven, hell, or earth, what would you choose? Now, let's break that down. Personally, I don't think I'd choose Earth because I wouldn't want to be a ghost on Earth haunting people in the shower and movie theaters. Sure, I could probably go to other places, but go where the action is, you know. Hell, well, do I want to get poked in the butt for all eternity? Or do they have any openings? Would I be doing the butt poking? Heaven, though? Would heaven be worth it? It might be kind of boring. I guess heaven, because torture doesn't really seem appealing. You just don't hear good things about hell, do you? Although if you go with the good omens approach, heaven and hell are both equally bad, but in different ways. But what do you think? Please leave your answers in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to finish my tea and head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.